Virtual reality has come a long way. It's been a while since Beat Saber and Space Pirate Trainer came out, and while those are both still staples of the come try out this new VR thing catalogue, things have changed. There is now a standard practice for a lot of VR titles that allow games to look past mechanics and focus on gameplay. When talking about Respawn's upcoming game Medal of Honor, game director Peter Hirschman told Adam Savage's Tested.
But when we partnered with Oculus, I went up to Menlo Park and I was expecting to be handed this binder of best practices, VR, and they said one of the most important things to us in this whole process, which is nobody knows anything. We're still figuring it out.
Half-life Alyx is an incredible game, and a huge leap forward for the perception of VR. I played through it a few days ago and had some things I thought could have been done better, but I sat on them for a while to see if my feelings changed. I saw a few articles and reviews, and the one that really prompted me to make this video was this article from PC Gamer. While this is a great review, and I agree with every point raised, I felt the article was missing the broader picture of the VR platform, and so I decided to put this video together. Here are 5 things that VR games should learn from Half-Life Alyx, as well as 5 things I think Half-Life Alyx can teach the others. Half-Life has always been synonymous with physics, and this game is no exception. The gravity gloves known as Russells make looting and mid-combat resupplies extremely satisfying and fun, but I immediately noticed something missing. Early on I had to pull a pipe out of a door to move forward, and with this being a VR game I kept the pipe to whack the next enemy with. Sure enough, a headcrab zombie popped out and I clobbered him old school, except it didn't do anything. At all. I found later on that you can cause enemies to momentarily stumble, but that was it. There was no improvised melee, no launching chairs or bricks or anything at enemies. This really surprised me for 2 reasons. One, it's a Half-Life game, and 2, there's limited ammo. You spend a lot of the game searching every corner to find bullets, but what would actually happen if you ran out? What would you do? You can't force your way free from a fight by flinging debris at your opponents. The only option is to use your bullets. This meant that every fight I got into, my first and only response was to shoot. I stopped looking for scenery to pull down or objects to exploit. It was very quickly, oh, a fight? Pull gun, fire. Many VR games that have come out recently have included some form of physics-based combat. Boneworks, Blade and Sorcery, and The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners are key in my mind. It feels like a missed opportunity from Alyx, and potentially part of the long development time keeping it from being included. Half-Life Alyx is gorgeous. I'm pretty sure everyone has said it, but damn is it good looking. Walking through City 17 feels incredible, and after finishing the game, it feels like a place I've actually been to. There's detail in every corner of the world. Every space is used to provide something that makes you feel like you're in a real place. The benefit of working in the Half-Life world means that they can use all that pre-existing design to soak character into every object, whether it's the style of rooftops, the brand of water-flavored rations, or just the wood paneling of the elevators. Every item fits and tells part of the story. Plenty of VR games put you in interesting settings, but none make you feel like you're living in it. Alyx absolutely nails it. Part of Alyx that is both a blessing and a curse is that it is most likely to be the game that convinces people to get VR. As a result, it seems that Valve wanted to tread lightly with its potential VR sickness. While a lot of games have realized that the dreaded VR sickness is usually temporary and something you can get past with time, Valve seems to be avoiding any risk. This is great in some aspects. Every locomotion option you would want is there and allows people to take their time, using teleport to get started and eventually working up to smooth locomotion once their inner ear gets used to the visual disconnect. Obviously for some this won't be possible, and so having teleport always available is great, and something that all games should do. But what Alyx gets wrong is its jumping. The teleport to point nature of it makes it feel far less earned. Instead of making a dramatic near-miss leap over a deadly chasm, you simply pick a point and whoop, you're there. Even the falling is slowed to make sure you don't move too fast in an uncomfortable direction. This would all be okay if it could be turned off, but it can't. It feels like a piece of Alyx that was trapped in the past, and it's a shame to not see it brought up to newer understandings. This is especially noticeable with the ladders. You cannot fall or drop from them. Once you've touched the ladder, you will be teleported to your destination if you let go. This means that it's hard to create a threat to a player using a ladder. and so they become weird safe spaces within the game. Hacking minigames have been in games for a long time, but Alyx is the first to bring these mechanics to VR. These visually interesting and distinct puzzles are incredible every time you encounter one. Each object has its own puzzle, from lockers with orbs, trip mines with hoops, and fabricators with its big lasers. These holograms evolve over the course of the game, slowly increasing in difficulty with more stages and extra hazards. Every item has a thematically appropriate lock, with Combine Tech having lasers and holograms, while the old City 17 buildings and tunnels have complicated wires you need to untangle with your handy multi-tool. Taking these into a three-dimensional space really shows the fine control you can have in VR, and I'd be surprised if we don't see more of these appearing in VR games going forwards. Inverse kinematics is the way that programs can use your head and arm location to provide an estimation of where your arms and body would be. Some VR games use this fully, letting you see your arms and feet, while others only use it on other players. This is more of a preference than a hard rule, but I much prefer the feeling of seeing your body as you move through VR spaces. In the same way that it doesn't feel odd when you put your hand through a wall and see the virtual equivalent get stuck, the arms and legs feel immediately like they are yours, even if they aren't a perfect mirror of your own movements. They're not a necessary part of VR games, but one I'd like to see more of moving forward, and something that feels missing in a huge game like Alyx. Throwing weapons, objects, and grenades in VR is always a hit or miss experience. It's at the whim of the physics as to which point you need to release the item, where it calculates the trajectory from, and how it inherits momentum from your movements. Some games do it well, some take practice to get right, others feel like you're flinging things pointlessly. When it comes to throwing, Alyx absolutely nails it. The grenades always feel like they're going where you threw them, and if you miss, then it's on you, not the game. Objects have real weight, so trying to throw a barrel is difficult, and launching propane tanks takes your whole body to get it moving through the air. Not once did I have to think about how I was throwing. I just did what felt natural. If I didn't have my controller straps on, I'm sure my Vive wand would hit the same part of my real-world wall as the in-game grenade. If you're ever looking for the best way to design throwing in VR, this is it. Headcrabs, barnacles, and combine soldiers are staples of Half-Life, and it is undeniably cool to be fighting them in VR. However, there are only so many slow-moving monsters you can take down before it gets a little simple. Without the physics combat I mentioned earlier, it becomes all too easy to just pop those headcrabs off and clear a room without moving from the spot you started in. The game introduces a few interesting enemy types throughout the game, but a lot of times it just takes a couple of well-placed shots to end the encounter, and you return to hunting down that precious resin. The tight environments of almost all the fights mean that you don't have to worry about repositioning or flanking. Even outdoor gunfights are more corridors than combat bowls. The other part of combat that could use some improvement is the damage feedback. Getting shredded by a manhack feels like you're suddenly on death's door, but your heart count is barely affected. Meanwhile, getting sprayed by a minigun feels like a few glancing hits that aren't too bad, but when you check your health there's barely anything left. Part of VR is that immersive feeling, but when you have to check to find out how hurt you are, that incoming damage feels inconsistent and unreadable. According to a different PC Gamer article, Valve had a much longer introduction, but they found that playtesters got fidgety and wanted to get to shooting things quicker. The result is a perfect opening that feels exactly the right length. When you're in VR, you don't want to be stood around waiting. The snappiest I've ever been is in an Onwards lobby screen waiting for someone to ready up. Come on, man, ready up.
Oh, I'm nearly done.
What are you doing, Ben? It's been ages.
I'm nearly there.
What is it you're doing? If you want your player to stand around in a VR game, you need to earn it, or provide them with some incredible scenery to look at. The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners has a very long, talky intro, and when you get into the first area, you immediately encounter yet another person to talk to. Throughout the game, you spend a lot of time staring at a radio and listening to a conversation, occasionally picking dialogue options. It's hard to stay engaged and not get restless. Alyx gives you dialogue when you need it, when you're looking at something worth talking about, or simply when you're creeping through a hallway. If Alyx does make you stand still, it's after you've been active for a good while, and the break is welcome. It also helps that everything it shows you is stunning, and you can't help but listen and stare. The three weapons you get in Alyx are very cool and interesting to use. The problem is that there are only three, and they're very conventional in function. There's a pistol, a shotgun, and an SMG. They do exactly what you'd expect, and while the resin upgrades add some extra functionality, they certainly don't become iconic parts of a loadout. Having them glued to your hands makes it hard to lose track of them, and loading the mags is assisted to make it incredibly easy. You will never find yourself struggling to get a mag in while a zombie shuffles towards you, and I personally think that's kind of a shame. The panic of trying to get your gun loaded under time pressure would certainly add some extra tension to some of the easier encounters. VR presents an opportunity to add functionality to weapons because of the ability to handle them in more unique ways. There's hints of this with the shotgun's grenade launcher upgrade. Sticking an explosive on, slamming forward a handle, it all feels great, but it's hard not to imagine a broader arsenal with these kinds of small interactions that can completely alter a weapon's function. Best for last, Alyx is full of incredible set pieces, but a lot of them you will have seen before. What makes these stand out so much is that they are contextualized by the rest of the game. They aren't spectacle for the sake of it, as some of the early VR demos were. They are there for a reason, and when they happen, you are in the middle of it, and I think they are what make this game so immersive. You truly forget you're in a room on Earth, and not actually in City 17, once the game gets your adrenaline going. Alyx presents you with something crazy, and then expects you to respond to it physically. I won't show any footage from the last few hours of the game, but they absolutely blew me away, and if any other game tried to capture the excitement of those moments without the preceding few hours of gameplay, there is no way it would land with such power. Alyx earns every moment of those unbelievable set pieces, and it set a crazy high bar for anyone developing for VR. This is a game I know I'm never going to forget because I didn't play it, it happened to me. Thank you for watching. This is the first time I've done something like this, and I'm sure there are plenty of problems with it, so any feedback would be greatly appreciated. I don't think any of my other videos are particularly worth linking to, but I will link to a video from one of my favourite channels, New Frame Plus. They do video essays on animation in games, and they were a big inspiration in my making this. So go check them out if you enjoyed this at all, or if you just want to see it done better. Thanks.